Hello and welcome to Crystal Uncorked. I am Crystal Vilkaitis and I am thrilled to be here. I'm back. It's been a few months. I launched another podcast. I launched my first conference. Holy guacamole. Things have been amazing. We've had a lot of momentum in my business. In fact, we just celebrated our best Q2 ever in the history of the business in 10 and a half years of having my business. And the quarter isn't even over yet. It is June 26th as I'm filming this. So we have a couple more days to continue to beat that record. So life's been amazing, but it has made this show be on the back burner. And so I apologize for that because I hate when I listen to shows and they disappear for a little bit, but it's always exciting when they come back. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and a lot of the people there were asking, when is Crystal Uncorked coming back? And I said, it is coming back soon. And here we are. I have to tell you, I'm so excited to be back. I love doing this show. And I've been getting a lot of clarity over the past couple of months, not doing the show, of how much I miss doing it and how much I love doing it. And then also just having that break has given me a lot of ideas for the show and content ideas. And I'm really excited to do all of that. So I want to say, as we're back here, I am not using my podcast team to help me right now with Crystal Uncorked. I have them helping me for my other show, Rooted in Retail, which has been going so great. But to save on some expenses and just from a budget perspective, I didn't want to have that expense for two shows. So I am doing this one on my own. And that is part of the thing that has been holding me back of getting this started, is because I know I've got to write the show notes and I've got to upload the show, and it's just a little bit more time intensive. And so it held me back a little bit, but I was like, you know what? I got to just fucking do the show because I love doing it. The other thing that was holding me back was feeling like I always had to be drinking wine on the show because it's Crystal Uncorked. And so I would want to wait till the evening to film, but so often I was brain dead, or we had something going on with friends or family. And I just constantly found myself pushing it because I wasn't going to have wine. And that made no sense to me either, because this show, yes, it's Crystal Uncorked, open and honest conversations over wine. But that doesn't mean that we have to always have wine. We're always going to have open and honest conversations. And that is certainly the uncorked part too. So I do have decaf coffee because it's the morning, and I'm just so excited to be filming again. The other thing is I'm not going to have my intros or my outros because I'm editing this baby. I needed this show to be as easy as possible to make sure that I get it done. And I think that what's most important for this show isn't that it has this exact structure and it's got my intro and then it's got the bump that talks about the show with the music, and then it's got the heart of it, and maybe there's a commercial, and then it's got the outro. That's great. That's great. I have that for Rooted in Retail. That can make sense for a lot of shows. This show is uncorked, and I need it to be easy, so I'll get it done. Otherwise, I won't film. And then that hurts my heart a little bit because I love doing this show and I love connecting with my listeners. I'm not kidding. I have the best listeners. I have so many friends who will text me or message me and just say, like, thanks for the show, or I really resonated with that. And I can't let things like the editing of a podcast and drinking wine hold me back from creating content. I just can't. And what's really funny is at Crystal Media, I have a new seminar topic that I've been doing. And a big part of it is we talk about resistance and how we don't get things done for a lot of different reasons. I mean, we'll have excuses, there's fears, there's a lot of reasons that things don't get done. But I found myself resisting this show, yet I am teaching people how to not resist putting themselves out there through social media. Yeah, I'm resisting putting myself out there. And so, I just said, fuck it. Let's hit record. Let's talk. And what I want to talk about, I wanted to talk about this for almost 2 months, is about fear and urgency and being multi-passionate, because I went to this conference and actually I'm feeling like I need to just say this real quick for anybody who is maybe new. There's no intro to introduce this show. I'm Crystal. I have solo conversations as well as interview conversations with entrepreneurs and interesting people that I meet. And it's all about just being honest and open and connecting and talking about the real shit. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And I just really pull back the curtain of my journey and share that, because what I have found is when we talk about our own journeys, it's pretty damn relatable. And I think that now more than ever, we want people that we can relate to, and we do want connections. So welcome to the show. All right. In May, I went to a conference called VCon. And this is done by Gary Vaynerchuk. He's been in the social media industry forever. But Gary, like, I love Gary. I've shared the virtual stage with him. I met him many times, and I got really emotional when I was walking around at VCon several different times. That we were basically there for 3 days. And I got so emotional because I would walk by Gary, and there was just this long line of people who got 2 minutes with Gary. And they stood in this line, they had their like time block, and he spent 2 minutes with everybody. And just, it gives me chills thinking about it. What he's created, like, he's created people that are so connected to him, that love him, that will travel to Indy to see him, that will stand in these lines just to meet him for, 2 minutes, and which goes by so fast. And he's just really created this movement almost, and just such great, amazing connection with his audience. And he's done that through giving, through showing up, through teaching, through educating, through putting himself out there, through content. And it's really inspiring. And I think I get emotional when I see it, because I would love to create something similar. I crave that connection. When I go to shows, I absolutely love connecting with our retailers, hearing from them. I mean, I've done a few shows this summer already, and just having retailers come up and really resonate with my content and, say, yep, what you were talking about up there, I could totally relate to. I have been hiding, or I do have my excuses, or I am resisting, or I do have fear. And just like having more of those meaningful conversations with retailers about real life stuff, really, like, that's the stuff that I love. That's the stuff that really lights me up. And I want more of that. And I think in order to create more of that, I have to be open. I have to be vulnerable, and I have to create, and I have to be consistent, and I have to show up here. And so I got very emotional seeing that with Gary and what he created. But what I found so interesting, and I've been wanting to do a Crystal Uncorked episode about this since I was at the conference. Almost every single topic that I sat in over 3 days, and there was, the first day was like an outdoor park day, but they did have an outside stage, and they had a lot of podcasters, they had athletes. Then the next 2 days were in the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indy where the Colts play. And then they also had athletes and celebrities and Deepak Chopra and Cesar Millan, Drew Barrymore, Jessica Alba, oh my gosh, Neil Patrick Harris, like all these people, right? Jay Cutler, who's played for the Denver Broncos. So it didn't matter who was speaking. You had people in Web3 and doing NFTs and like very techie things and the metaverse. It didn't matter if they were podcasters, celebrities, athletes, Web3. Every fucking person pretty much was talking about authenticity and fear. And now's the time. Urgency. Commit. Go all in. Show up. Put yourself out there. Be you. Do it afraid. Almost every single talk over 3 days, that's what it talked about. That's what people were talking about. And, the first time I heard it, I was like, yeah, totally. That's like what I've been teaching lately. Like, yeah, related to it. And then after a while, I'm like, wow, I'm really seeing a theme here. And I think that the theme is so big right now because I really feel like it's bigger than it ever has been. I've been in the social media space since my first video teaching social media was 2008. So 15 years. And I've never seen it be this big, I feel like, with authenticity connected to fear. I have heard a lot about authenticity and consistency is key, but I feel like we're going deeper on fear. And I think that that's coming up more and more because of social media and because we are comparing ourselves to people. We will see people that rise, these overnight successes and these influencers who are doing really big things and just their business is taking off. And I think now more than ever, it's so easy for us to compare through social media, but all we're ever seeing is what people want to show. It's the highlights reel. And that's a big reason why I wanted to create Crystal Uncorked, because I was feeling like, and I still feel like this, it's not that easy. It's not that glamorous. There's hard shit. And why is nobody talking about the hard stuff? Like being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, you really are figuring out a lot. And I'm really convinced that nobody knows what they're doing. So you just have to figure it all out. And it's really hard. And so I think that we get really caught up in like everybody else's results or what we're seeing, or they look perfect, they sound perfect, their editing is amazing, their lighting is great, their brand is strong. That could never be me. And so we'll hide and we'll make excuses and we just take the more comfortable route. It's way more comfortable to not put ourselves out there. It's way more comfortable. It's so much easier if I didn't do this show, right? Because I have to take the time to kind of collect my thoughts and what do I want to talk about. I don't like to be scripted for this because it's Crystal Uncorked. And so I do want to have kind of a direction that we're going to go, but otherwise I'm just seeing where we go with this show, right? We're unscripted, we're uncorked. But I still have to take the time to do it. I'm now editing. Then you need to promote it after you launch it. I have to write the show notes and get the page loaded. Like it's a lot more comfortable and easy for me to not do any of that. And also almost every single episode I film, when I hit end and leave call, I'm like, oh, fuck. I don't know if that was good. I don't know. I don't know if I had a point. I don't know if that's going to resonate with anybody. Did I share too much? Was it not meaty enough? Should I have told more stories? And I just have all this fear about the episode and how it's going to resonate. And then all of a sudden, the episode's live and then somebody will comment on it about like, oh my God, I can so relate. Or, oh my God, that like really hit home for me. Or, oh, I loved that part when, and I'm like, really? Because I was like, I don't know if people are going to like this. And so there's a lot of fear. I could easily delete it, but I am just committed. I'm just committed. And I know that when I put something out, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to get feedback and I want to make my tomorrow self proud. And the way that I make her proud is by showing up today versus we do it opposite. We'll put stuff off for tomorrow because we have all the best intention in our tomorrow self. That person is going to crush it, right? And I think that there's actually studies that have been done that we have more faith in tomorrow's self than today's self. And that's why we procrastinate and put things off. But I've been trying to flip that. What can I do today to make tomorrow's self proud? And really just put that, one step forward, you get closer and closer and closer to reaching your goals and really being who you want to be and building that dream life. But that has to happen through walking through the fear. And so that topic being brought up so much at VCon and everybody talking about fear, I was like, okay, I have a feeling that a lot of the people that are talking about the fear, they moved through it and saw on the other side, it's not that fucking bad. It's actually amazing. And why didn't I do it sooner? Why didn't I do this sooner? Why have I been holding myself back? Why have I been resisting it? And so in addition to the imposter syndrome, the comparing ourselves, I think that, people are finding it's not so bad. Like you don't die, you do it afraid, you make it out on the other side. And we want to share it from the rooftops because it's so amazing on that other side. And so I would question, for you listening, is there something that you've been resisting that for whatever reason, whatever excuse, because really I believe that we just make up excuses. It's just not a priority for us. So is it an excuse or are you going to make it a priority? But is there something that you've been called to do? You really, 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 really want to do it. And it just keeps coming up in so many different ways for you. And you keep pushing it off. Okay, you're pushing it off because of fear. You're resisting it for some reason. You need to stop pushing it off. So commit to it today. Break it down. What are the baby steps that you have to take? What's the very next step? What's just the next thing you have to do to get it done? And then after that, you do that one step. And then what's the next thing? We overcomplicate shit all the time, myself included. Oh my God. My team will assign something to me and I'll have resistance of doing it. And so I'll like write back and I'll have all these questions that I'm like, I'm wanting to write an email with all these questions to get all their answers back so I can basically procrastinate for a day while I'm waiting for them to give me the answers back. And one day, many months ago, I was writing this email and I'm like, okay, I know the answer to this. I know the answer to that. I can make up what the answer is to this. It's going to be better if it's my answer anyways. And my team being like, I don't know, how about we do this? Like, I know the direction I want to go with this video. So here we go. Here, let's just do it. Okay, now let's just film. And then I just did the video and then it was great. And then it was done. And I was like, oh, okay. All I really needed to do was what's the next thing? Okay, let me just answer these questions to my team. Okay, next thing, hit fucking record. Next thing, send it to my team instead of pushing it off, procrastinating, resisting, excuses. I have a feeling that if you stopped and you look at the things that you have to do in your life and the things that you're putting off, will it really take that long? Is it really that hard? And is it really that scary? Like the idea of launching a podcast, I wanted to do it for so many years and I kept saying no because of fear. And I talked about that early on in this show. And I waited a few years and I'm bummed that I waited. But I'm glad that I did do it. And I'm here and you just have to do it afraid. So fear was such a big topic at VCon. The other thing that was such a big topic, if you're watching this, I have insane allergies. So I just like keep itching my nose. My nose is just crazy itching right now. The other thing that was talked about a lot was urgency. Do the thing now. Stop waiting. So we're addressing the fear. Okay, we have the fear, but we're going to do it anyways. Like my grandma says, do it afraid. And we have to do it now. What are we waiting for? We're going to wake up and we're going to regret not doing it. We're going to miss out. As I was hearing these things about fear and urgency and do it now and commit and show up, what kept coming up for me so much was my shows. I love doing podcasting with the video element. I love it. I love doing this show. I love doing Rooted in Retail, and they're two very different shows. And I love that I have both because I have an outlet here on this platform to just be me and be more personal and human and vulnerable and the stuff that I crave so much from other businesses and business owners. I get that, fulfillment. And then when I'm hearing it back from the listeners, like that's incredible. It just fills up my cup in such a different way than Rooted in Retail, where Rooted, it's these interesting conversations with people in the industry and retailers and what's working and just going really deep in the industry and then really helping people through that. Like we've just got such great testimonials through doing that show. And so I've been doing this show. I've been very committed to Rooted. But I was feeling this like, ooh, you haven't done Crystal Uncorked in a couple of months. When are you going to do that again? And it was feeling heavy and it was feeling heavy. And it was just such this big pull to do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it at the hotel room tonight. I'm going to be this action taker and do it right away. But then there was always something going on and I didn't make it a priority. And you fast forward and 6 weeks later, I'm making it a priority. And here's the deal. I'm glad. I don't want to harp on myself. Like it is what it is. I could have done this sooner, but here I am today. I did it. And what I want to commit to is really being consistent. No more pauses. I've taken 3 pauses with Crystal Uncorked, really being consistent with this show for the next 2 years. And so here's what I've been thinking about. I listened to this incredible podcast in my mastermind group. And the guy's name was Travis. I can't remember his last name, but he's a podcaster. I think he's been podcasting for 4 or 5 years. And he said that when he first decided, okay, I'm going to podcast, I am going to commit to it for 18 months. I will do it every single week, non-negotiable for 18 months. I refuse to pause. I have to give this a fair shot to see if it's going to work. And he said after the first 12 months, like there was still crickets. Maybe 100 people were listening. Like it was just very small. But once he got to the 18 months thing, that was kind of the tipping point. He started to see more and more people, thousands and better guests. And then the show was building. And now he's at like tens of millions of downloads with his show. And he's had it for 4 or 5 years. And so as I was listening to that, I was very inspired and I realized I need to fully commit. I think that we will have these intentions, the best intentions or ideas. And so we'll do something, but there's not this commitment to it where we have a date and it says, okay, by this day, if XYZ hasn't happened, then I'm going to either reassess, try something new, or I'm going to end it. Right. And something I teach at Crystal Media is setting SMART goals. SMART. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timed. And that timed piece, that's when you're saying, I'm going to hit this goal by this date. So I just feel like there's so many opportunities for us to commit to something by this date. And then it becomes a habit. It becomes non-negotiable. We have to set up our life in order for us to get that thing done because this is a non-negotiable. We have to commit. And how we build confidence is by sticking to the promises that we make ourselves, by committing to ourselves. And so I haven't really had a commitment with this show. I've just been kind of loose with it. Like I really love doing it. I don't know where it's going. I'm not really sure. And it's like up in the air. And so it's so easy to take these pauses. So I was like, okay, by June 2025, and I'm giving myself 2 years of this commitment because this show doesn't have a focused niche. When you have a focused niche, it's easier to grow. It's easier for people to self-identify. I relate to that show. This is my people. Like I'm that person. I should be a part of this show, a part of this circle. So I feel like my niche is small business women. But I definitely have some women who listen who aren't business owners. And I know I have some men that listen too. And so I'm not super niche. And I'm not well known. I'm not like Cher or Drew Barrymore or Reese Witherspoon or, like a celebrity who's all of a sudden starting a show. And then that just immediately has followers from day one. I don't have that either. So it's going to take a little bit of time. And so I wanted to give myself 2 years. And also I feel like that's fun because in June of 2025, I will turn 40. And something I'm going to talk about on the show is I have a really hard time with aging. And I'm not going to get into it with this episode, but I just feel like it will be fun to reflect back and say, okay, here I committed for 2 years and what's happened. And now I'm 40 and, we'll go from there. And from there, I could decide, am I stopping the show? Are we continuing? Or maybe something has come out of the show that I never could have even imagined. I don't know. But the reason I'm doing this is this show means a lot to me. It's that connection. It's those conversations that I have with people who listen to the show, who got to know me a little bit better, that gave them the permission to share more to me about them. I let my light shine more and just be open and honest and vulnerable on this show and put it out there, which I know gives permission for other people to do the same, for them to shine their light, for them to be vulnerable, for them to put themselves out there. And I've seen it. And that fucking shit matters to me. It matters so much to me. And so I want to keep doing that. And I want an outlet where I can show behind the curtains and have these honest conversations. And there'll be solo episodes. There will be interviews. It's just going to be how I see and how I'm feeling this flow. I don't want it to be super structured. I like the uncorked part, the unscripted part, and I think it's going to resonate the most with people. And so I'm committed. And it starts now. And so going back to VCon with this fear and that urgency, and it was, oh God, I was so pulled with Crystal Uncorked and just really doing the show and going all in. Here's my commitment. And one of the ways that we could also keep our commitments and how we could build an accountability is by sharing it. So I am sharing it to you here, right? And this is a big fucking commitment. 2 years, 2 years of being consistent to this show. But you know what? I started the show 2 years ago. I have taken 3 breaks, but we've got this. I'm very excited to commit to show up, to be here. And one final thing that I want to say about, actually 2 things I want to say about VCon, and then we'll wrap up this episode, is the first, Drew Barrymore was also talking about authenticity at VCon, and I really loved her. I haven't watched her talk show at all. And I'm not necessarily like this big Drew Barrymore fan. I like a lot of her movies and I like her, but it's not like I'm like, oh my God, like I'm crying when I see her or anything like that. But what I loved about her talk at VCon is she wouldn't sit still. So she was there with one of her partners. She has a business and they have this product line. Actually, if anybody has hookups to Drew Barrymore, I'd love to have her on my show, Rooted in Retail, because she is a retailer and they've got this home decor line and it's just killing it. And so she was there with her partner and then a interviewer, like a moderator. And Drew could not stay in her chair. She was just like so excited about what she was talking about and so filled with joy and so filled with enthusiasm and just wanted to get up and wanted to walk around. And so she would, and she just wouldn't hold back. And you could see her on her edge of her seat. And I was like, God, she's just really fucking being her. She is so being her. And that's where she started saying, like, you have to be you and just don't wait and show up. And then she started talking about how it's okay to be multi-passionate. It's okay to be multi-passionate. She's like, I'm an actress. I'm a talk show host. I have a home decor line. Like all these things that she's doing. It's okay. And I feel like so many business conferences and business people, it's like that. It's kind of the older way of thinking almost, is that you've got to do one thing, put yourself in a box and do that thing really good. And then you could go to the next thing, but not until you do the one thing really good. And I have to be honest, there's a part of me that has mixed feelings about that, because I really do feel like if you commit to something and then you master that and then you can move on to the next, like that mastering thing, you've mastered it because you committed to it. But here's the deal. None of us are the same. What we want out of life, what we want out of our businesses is all different. And so there's somebody out there that really wants to master something and be really focused and be the fucking best at that one thing out of anybody else in the world. So that person can be really focused in, laser focused, right? Because that's what they want. But then there are people who love this, but also love this and also drawn to that. And that is amazing. They might want their life to be more complex, to have more variety. Dustin always says variety is the spice of life. You know, those creatives that really like to dabble in all sorts of different things. You can absolutely do what you want to do. It's okay to be multi-passionate, and you could be successful being multi-passionate. And that hit home for me because for so long I didn't want to do Crystal Uncorked. I was resisting it because I felt like it was so far off from Crystal Media, from my marketing, my social media company, that this show was going to talk about life topics and love maybe and relationships and behind the scenes of career and some of the messy stuff and the hard stuff and leadership and therapy and like all this other stuff that's not at all who I've been. So I had so much fear of what people would think about me. And is this such a 180? And do I lose my credibility? And does everything crumble? Like, no, nothing crumbled. I can be both. I can be this transparent, open, honest businesswoman who loves love and relationships and conversation and wine, and also be a businesswoman and run a company. And then I can also love Catan and play that a lot. And I can love traveling and talk about that. And I can write if I want to write a book or several books, because I do want to do that. And that is my hopes that that happens soon. More on that in future episodes. But we could be multi-passionate. We could be interested in several things. We can create several things. We can make money in several different ways. We just have to stay true to us. For me, it comes down to being true to me, living in my authentic, like what I want. And that's a big part of that authenticity is do what you want, not what everybody else is telling you to do or who you think you should be or what you think you should be doing. Authentically be you, true to your heart, then just be you. Don't try to be anybody else, be you. Show up authentically as yourself. And then commit to yourself. Commit to those things that you want to do, that you are being so pulled to do. You have to commit. You have to commit to yourself. And so this episode was a little bit about fear and excuses and urgency. Time is now, and being multi-passionate and really committing. And it's just a blend of all the things that I've been really, really, really thinking about a lot lately and things I've been really working on myself. And so, as always, I hope that something resonated with you in this episode. If you have a friend that is going through something similar of the confusion or the fear or holding herself back or, whatever that might be, send this episode to her. I hope that it is helpful. And on the next episode, I'm going to talk about why not me? A line that I talked about, I think in my very first episode of Crystal Uncorked. I wanted to start this show and I thought, why not me? And we're going to talk about that, but I have two different angles. We're going to look at that. And I hope it's an interesting conversation with myself, my solo conversation. So I'll see you on the next episode. There's no video bump that's coming out here. There's no outro. If you want to connect with me on Instagram, that would be the best place to do it. Crystal Vilkaitis. And if you just start typing like Crystal, Crystal, VIL, you'll see me pop up. I know it's a tough name, but Crystal Vilkaitis. There is no Crystal Uncorked Instagram, so don't go follow that. That's old. Just follow me, Crystal Vilkaitis, and I will see you on the next See You. It's so good to be back. Take care. Bye.